Hello again, this is the OhioRAAM Show coming to you from Southwest Ohio, where we are sponsored by two Race Across America time stations in Oxford and Blanchester, Ohio. Also, we're the home of the sign man, Mike Minium. Those of you who have been in Southwest Ohio, either racing or as fans, you see the signs along the route, and that's Mike's job. And we're just delighted that this year we're actually going to have a team in the Race Across America. Team Oxford, a four-person mixed team, and that all came about because of what we do here. We're very tickled to be a part of the Race Across America, although I have to say quite quickly, and to Rick and Fred Boathling's delight, we are not officially related to the Race Across America. This is just something we do. We have a great guest this evening. I'm so delighted to have George Thomas with us, and he has had a busy week, and he's going to be talking about that. My name's Lee Kreider. I host the show as I knock my microphone off here. And welcome to the OhioRAAM Show, George. We're glad to have you with us.
Well, thanks very much, Lee. I appreciate it.
How are you doing tonight? Are you exhausted from this past week?
You know, tonight was just really special to be able to have the people I had on the radio show this evening. It was pretty powerful for me.
Yeah, I was just listening to Jens Voigt on the show, and I don't think the other. Well, we'll let you talk about that in a moment, but it's been so good. I think most everybody knows the name George Thomas, or those who know him as the host of Over the Top Radio. But I think there's more to George Thomas than just that. George, what's life like for you outside of cycling and over-the-top radio?
Well, I work for a physical therapy office and love being in the clinic. I really like healthcare because not kidding, I just love working with patients and people that need some help. It makes me feel great. And just the relationships that you get in that situation are really powerful and special. Got a great wife who I'm fortunate to be able to ride bikes with, and a beautiful little daughter who's starting second grade Wednesday.
So you do have a life outside of this.
Absolutely.
Very busy life, didn't you? Well, I have a deep appreciation, George, for physical therapists. My wife had a stroke about 6 years ago, and I found out two things about therapists. They're the meanest people on earth. They make you do things you don't want to do, and they're miracle workers. Because both the physical therapist, the occupational, the speech, well, I'm getting tears in my eyes, George. They took a woman who didn't know anything, couldn't speak, didn't know anybody, and in a few weeks they had her walking and talking, and she walked out of that place. And so I have to hand it to you people. You do great work, and we are certainly here in this household the beneficiaries of that, George.
I love it. It's been a big part of my life on numerous occasions throughout my cycling career, and really since 1984. Had a few accidents and have needed physical therapy after them, and you know, they do have that reputation of causing a lot of pain, but you know, that pain means I'm going to get better, and it's very motivating for me, and I love it. I'm actually going to school now, or I'm going to start going to school to get a more advanced degree in physical therapy.
Well, I have to tell you this story. When my wife was in the hospital and getting inpatient therapy, I was pushing her down the hallway in a wheelchair one day, and she doesn't remember this, but she was just crying, don't take me down there, don't take me down there. She didn't want to go see you people, but my goodness, you do such wonderful work. Well, George, tell me a little about also your background in cycling, how long have you been at it, what kind of things you've been doing?
You know, I really started cycling as part of physical rehab after I was hit by a drunk driver back in 1984. And the way we built the strength back in my legs was through a bicycle, because I couldn't walk all that well, so a friend loaned me a bike and an indoor trainer, and I started spinning on that and watched the 1984 Olympics, and the U.S. team did really well, and I got motivated to start riding a bike. And I mean, going around the block was a huge accomplishment for me. I loved it, and before I knew it, I entered a couple of bike races and found out this was something I really, really enjoyed. And then I saw a bicycling magazine that had this goofy race in it called the Great American Bike Race. And seeing pictures of the guys riding at night, I mean, in the dark, that just looked so cool. And while I liked traditional bicycle racing, Great American Bike Race, of course that became Race Across America, was just something I had an eye on really since I started riding.
Yeah. Well, I could say that you're in Boulder, Colorado, and you mentioned 1984. I think it may have been the first Ride the Rockies was in 1986, and we came out from Ohio, to a bunch of us, to do that ride. And I believe, don't the Finneys live there in Boulder?
Yes, and
yeah. Well, it was Connie Carpenter at the time. She had won the first women's cycling gold medal in Olympic sports. Was with us for the ride over Independence Pass. And I like to brag a little bit, George, and say I rode with Connie over Independence Pass, but I have to be honest and tell you that she came up alongside me and chatted for a little bit and then stood up and went on her way. But that's a great memory of mine. Well, now you did Raw this year, did you not?
I did. I actually really enjoy it.
That's Race Across the West, Raw. Yeah.
I thought Race Across the West would feel like, gosh, how could you do that as part of RAAM, because you'd feel like you were quitting. I've done Raw 3 times now, and every time I've gotten to the finish line, it's like, I'm really glad I'm done.
Well, you are on a 2-person team, and who was your partner?
It was Mick Walsh. He and I teamed up in 2010, and we both actually had some health issues and ended up second, and wanted to come back and win it, because I'd won it 2-person in 2009, and that was when the race went all the way to Taos. I think it was 1,022 miles then.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot, and our goal this year was to come back and win. And I hate sounding cocky, but that's what we wanted to do, and it was really special to be able to do that.
Well, you sure did, and I believe about the only team ahead of you was a 4-person team, wasn't it?
Yes, and we got caught, I believe, by another 4-person team with about 40 miles to go.
Okay. I didn't check the stats today, but I know that you did quite well. Well, let's talk about over-the-top radio. What is it, and how you got into it, and a little bit about what's been going on with you this week.
You know, my background's in radio. My degrees in communications and history. I went right into radio after college. Looked some at TV, but I'm not comfortable in front of a camera, and I love being behind a microphone, and I had so much fun in radio. I loved it, and then I became a public speaker for a pharmaceutical company for quite a while, and I love public speaking. I love drama, and not drama in my life, I mean theater, and it's a lot of fun for me. And I started announcing the finish at Race Across America, and I had someone come up and say, you know, I can't believe the way you're able to interview people when you're so sleep deprived. Would you like a job in radio as a news director? And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, I'm really happy where I am. I don't want to move, but I miss being in radio. And I thought, why not start a podcast and focus on endurance sports, and specifically endurance bicycle racing.
And I noticed that your show covers quite a range of subjects in the world of cycling. I noticed you did some things on there was one on cycling etiquette and things like that.
Well, I just started having fun thinking, what can I do? You know, I love long distance bicycle racing. It's just a passion for me. But I also like traditional bicycle racing. I love professional racing. And Mick, my teammate, happened to be friends with some of the young guys who were coming up, like Gavin Mannion and Ian Boswell, who are frequently on the show. These guys were on the Bontrager Livestrong team. Ian ended up on Team Sky this year. Gavin made it up to Garmin. And so all of a sudden it's just opened up for me these avenues to pro cycling. So it's been, I started thinking, you know, podcast doesn't have to be this heavily slick produced piece. I want to be more like a reporter and do updates from races and get multiple call-ins from different riders and maybe try it with 3 or 4 different guys on at the same time, and you know, just trying to get creative with other ideas. And the cycling etiquette came up when I was out on a ride and some guy just jumped on my wheel, never said a word to me, stayed on my wheel for probably 15 miles and then went sprinting past me on a hill, and it kind of ticked me off. And you know, I started thinking about other things and that happen to cyclists, and so I thought I'd have a couple of guys on and just get their opinions about it. You know, nothing legal, but just how do other riders handle these situations?
Yeah.
But bicycle law, you know, I've done a series with a bicycle attorney, sports psychology, which has been great. I'm starting a women's specific show with Robin Farina, who runs the Women's Cycling Association. I've got a show.
Yeah, I heard that show with her, and I think we share that in common because kind of by default, and maybe this happens to you too, you start out with an idea, but as things develop, by default, I've had a lot of women on the show, and we had an all-woman show last year, and the question came to me, why are there not more women in ultra cycling and in general and RAAM in particular? And so it kind of became a mission of mine to emphasize the role of women, and I'm glad to have made quite a few friends among the women and try to punch that up a little bit. I say women always seem to me, they add a lot to the sport. They bring a sort of a vitality or elan to it, if you will, that it makes for an interesting sport. And I was curious about you mentioned you had about the Tour of Montana, is it, where they're going to have women racing alongside men?
Not with them, but they're starting it. I mean, it's going to be a separate stage race for the women as well as a stage race for the men, but I believe they're going to be equal distances and equal prize money.
Okay, well that's a good thing. I think we've got a ways to go in that, and I think the fact that they had the last day of the Tour de France with women in it, when there's a large, crowds gather there a long time before the actual men get in there, I think that was a great thing as well. Well, you had a busy week with the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. You had several important guests on there. Tell me about them.
You know, I had a lot of fun. I got asked to come to a local pizza place, Proto's Pizza, and because they were doing a kind of a kickoff party and autograph signing, and Keel Reinen was there, who I met through Mick Walsh. I'm going to just ruin this guy's name, but Clement Chevrier was there from Team Bissell, Ben Day, Alex Howes, who just come off the Tour de France.
Yeah. And
it was funny because Keel said his goal was to win stage 1 and take the sprinter's jersey, and he did it. And so often, somebody will come into something with an expressed goal, and it doesn't work out, but Keel won stage 1, was in the leader's jersey, and then he took over the green points jersey. Ben Day, who ended up doing a nightly check-in with me after each stage, was retiring at the end of the Pro Challenge, so it was a very special thing for him, and he's a Boulder resident, as well as Keel. Alex Howes lives in Boulder. He won the last stage, and Clement, who was here with the Bissell team, ended up taking the young rider jersey. So I made this video with these guys who ended up doing so well, and then talked to Jens Voigt today.
Yeah, I was just before George joined the show, I was listening to the Jens show you've done. It's great, folks. And while we're at it, let's just put the link up here to George's show over the top. Now, you don't have to remember all that stuff there, because if you'll simply go to the show website, in the show notes right below where the video is, you'll have a link. You can just click on it, and I'll take you right there. We'll put that in there when we put the show notes together when we're done. But you can pick up the interview with Jens Voigt, and then I believe you got another one with Day coming up as well, George.
Yes, we just were wrapping that up. I went right into that after the Jens interview.
And that's terrific. Now, I gather that you can record a show, or a lot of times you use the telephone, do you not, to get your guests on?
I do. Like I said, to me, it doesn't have to be something that's slickly produced, but you've got to have listenable sound. The better the quality, the better, obviously. But questions that are more unique. I try to ask things that you wouldn't just find in Velo News or bicycling or watching NBC. I look at everybody as having a story, and like you were saying, you know, getting a variety of guests. I had a show a couple of weeks ago with 3 guys in Seattle who rode their bikes to Mount Rainier, climbed it, came down. Tons of people listened to that show.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly glad to have you with us here. I was telling you before the show started, yesterday I had tickets to the Dayton Dragons game here, and it was an afternoon game, so I set my VCR to record. Maybe you could help me with fill in some information here, George. I set it to record the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, the last stage, and went away, and it has already started recording when I left. I'll come back and I'll watch it. And I was watching away there, enjoying myself, and all of a sudden they tell me that they're going to switch channels. And so I ended my viewing of the race along about the time the breakaway was coming down on old Route 40 off of Lookout Mountain, a road that my wife and I have ridden with our tandem and know it very well. And there it ended. And I was, of course, I didn't have it set to record on the NBC channel, so I got the results, but the thing I was interested in, George, they were saying that the Garmin team was trying to break up the sprinters to give Howe a chance to win, and I guess that worked for him, did it not?
It did. There was a sprinter they definitely wanted to get rid of, and United Healthcare was working with Garmin. It sounded like, after talking to Ben, to get this guy out of there so that Keel and Alex would have a good shot at it. And it's so, I love that on stage 1, Keel and Alex came in 1-2, and on the final stage, they just reversed it. Alex won it, Keel was second.
Well, I'm glad to get that. I read a little review of it, and I understood that that's what happened, but I was sorely disgusted when I found out it's just like, you know, the Super Bowl ending at halftime, you know. Okay, you have to read the rest of it in the newspaper or something. But I guess that's where cycling fits into the scheme of things, is it not?
Well, back in the 60s, I remember the Heidi Bowl when the Jets and the Raiders were playing. There were 2 minutes to go. I believe the Jets, everybody thought the game was wrapped up, so the television station switched it to the Shirley Temple Heidi. And in the final 2 minutes, the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns and came back to win in one of the best NFL finishes.
Yeah. And a couple years ago, I think it was the Tour of California, there was a sprint finish, and the NBC cut them off with about a kilometer to go. And of course, in a sprint race, you have 120 miles of boredom, and then the race all comes down to that last 500 kilometers. But well, I'm tickled to death that cycling has the place it has. It's come a long way, and it's come a long way. I've said it, endurance cycling, George. I started working time stations in the 80s. And in those days, the only thing we didn't have any cell phones, or we didn't have internet. All we had were rumors, and which were almost always wrong. And now we've got GPS tracking that we can watch on our phones wherever we're at. It's wonderful that we have all of these things. George, any reflections on where cycling is at, endurance cycling? Any thoughts that you'd like to share with us as we roll to an end here?
Wow, that's a great question. I do think there are new people coming into the sport. I love that Christoph Strasser is doing so well. I mean, you have this young guy, early 30s, who's so nice and approachable, and he's so fast and talented. I think he's a great face for RAM and the sport as a whole. I've noticed that a number of races, younger people are coming in. I think what RAM's been doing has been really smart with introducing people to ultra cycling through some of the shorter distances. Race Across Oregon now, we have a double century as well as the full race. And I think the sport as a whole is becoming even more healthy than it's ever been.
And I think actually, I was one of those people that grumbled about teams coming in. I thought, well, that's not what the Race Across America
I love
is about.
teams.
I do too. I've come to enjoy it, and for the fans, particularly here in Ohio, it adds a lot to it. I mean, if there were just solo riders, you would be sitting around twiddling your thumbs a good bit of the time. But we're very fortunate in Ohio, George, because about the time that the teams are catching the solo riders is right through here, right through this part of the country. And so you have, a Strasser coming through 36 hours ahead of anybody else, which causes a lot of consternation on the part of our time station workers, but, they live with it. But after about 48 hours, you start to have people coming through in bunches, so you can come through after a day or so, the race is on, and just come to our time stations most any time and be able to see racers. And I say the nice thing about the Race Across America for us fans is that we not only get to see racers, meet them sometimes because they do stop and chat, particularly if they're teams. We get to talk to the crews. We get to talk to officials, and it's really a nice sport, and the cost of admission is zero. So I think that the teams have added an awful lot, and particularly now that the charities have become increasingly important in their activities. Now, even among the solo riders,
right,
the charitable aspect is important, and I think that's added a lot of dimension to it. Well,
yeah,
again,
never race solo again. That my favorite division in any of the distances is two-person. I really like having a teammate. I like that aspect of it, and it just adds an element of fun for me that I didn't have with solo. And I guess I achieved all of my solo goals, and now this is fun. It's competitive. It's fast, and I like it.
Yeah, we like I say, the teams have added an awful lot to the race, and again, I want to put up the blog URL, the link there. Again, it'll be on the show notes, so you can follow George's show. I highly recommend it. It's great. I've been listening to it for quite a little while, and you are one of my inspirations. I steal some of your ideas from time to time. I hope you don't mind that.
I think that's great.
And you've had some of the people on that I've had on. We really enjoy having you. And we thank you, George, for taking your time to be with us this evening.
Well, Lee,
And
thank you very much. I was very honored to get your invitation.
well, we're honored to have you on the show, and great to have you with us. Now, as we roll to an end here, I just want to say that to find the link to George's uh, radio blog, Over the Top Radio, instead of trying to remember that one I just put up there, just go to OhioRAAMShow.com, and in the show notes right below the video, you will see a link that you can click on. It'll take you right there. We want to say that we are just now in the process of coming out of our summer vacation, which lasted us a little longer than we expected, but we're getting back in the swing of things. And those of you who watch know that I don't like to announce guests before I have a time nailed down. But I can say this, that as the registrations for RAM 2015 are rolling in, and they sure have been rolling in, we're going to have some Australian teams on here very shortly. Goodness sakes, we're going to have some Danish teams on here. Those two countries are just starting to become very productive as far as the race across America and the race across the West is concerned, so they're going to be on. We thank you for watching. When you go to the website, if you do, we would appreciate it if you would, on Facebook, give us a like. On Google+, give us a plus. That helps my ego, of course, but more important, it makes the show more available. It makes the whole sport of ultracycling more known, and so you can help the whole sport by doing those kind of things. And the same thing true for George. You want to follow you on Facebook, and George, I think I'll put your link to your Facebook page up there on the show notes as well.
Thank you.
And so you can follow George there, and when you give him a like, it's just to help this sport along. If you'd like to have information on the show, on the website, you'll see a place where you could put your email address in, and it will you'll get notice every time a show is posted. Nobody else is going to get that address. We're not going to sell it to anybody or anything like that. You're safe on that. So we thank everyone who are watching. We thank you, George, again for being with us, and we look forward to your shows in the future. And for that, we're going to be saying good night, George.
Good night. Thanks very much.
And good night to all of you.